Do you really want the next Elder Scrolls to be like this? I don't. Playing Avowed confirmed a lot of my thoughts on Skyrim. In Skyrim, I don't need massively improved combat, I don't need realistic graphics and cleaner NPCs, I don't want lengthy talking sections with 7 different options to pick from. In Skyrim, I don't want my role-playing to exclusively come from dialogue. Whether people realize it or not, many of the criticisms are wanting Skyrim to be more like Avowed and Avowed to be more like Skyrim. But Avowed just ain't Skyrim. It's a spin-off interpretation of Pillars of Eternity. Being a big fan of Pillars of Eternity and the world of Eora, I fully knew and understood this would not be their version of Skyrim. It was going to be their way to present this world in a way that would be more digestible to a modern audience. My expectations were reasonable. I wasn't hyped, but I was curious, and a little excited how using a new format could help translate to others why Eora and Pillars of Eternity is so fascinating. They are deeply interesting games that are absolutely rich with creative, complex, intricate stories if you're willing to take the time to listen. So my expectations were, how does this compare to Pillars of Eternity? So when I heard so many people cry about things like the townspeople being static, I just didn't care. I honestly didn't even really think about it until people whined about it as it. God damn it. Talk shit, learn your lines. I just didn't care. I honestly didn't even really think about it until people whined about it so much as if some sort of gamer hate crime had been committed.
You'll be fine.
I figured, yeah, the NPCs don't move around much. That's pretty conventional for these games. Because I went in viewing it as an extension of Pillars, not a reskin of Skyrim. So my expectations were as flat as possible, but, well, for the most part, I did not enjoy Avowed. So why? I think the biggest culprit is the translation from this to this. You can lose quite a bit. I don't think all that much was gained from the attempt. On my exit from a now lifeless Zarup camp, tromping over their scaled corpses, I noticed this giant spider roasting over the fire in the middle of camp. I almost missed it, and not in a cool, oh, small, easily missable, detailed way. Avowed has many of those that are enjoyable, my favorite being the spilled ink and rose left on the roof by a melancholic poet. The spider was not one of those moments. This was the centerpiece of the location, and it hardly stood out. When pausing to look at it, it did admittedly look cool. It looked very Pillars of Eternity. But this small moment made me question if the change in format was worth it. I felt the same way around the mid-game. There was this unexpected, just fascinating, beautiful, melancholic, somber, think of a better word, ice sculpture. That was just glowing during the midnight. Nervous of what might come, I rested at the nearby camp, and in the morning the artistic sculpture lost all its impact. I'm happy I was lucky enough to see it at night. If I saw this in the day, I would have felt the same, that's cool I guess, I had with the spider. Maybe to make the art stand out, they needed to follow Wodica a little more closely and have controlled the sets a bit more. There are plenty of moments that translate the visual sets one to one. Everything is in its place. The details are technically correct, yet it has so much less impact than the old games. The change in style ruins the artistic impact it would otherwise have if it were an isometric. Pillars is beautiful and all the details stand out. You wish you could just dive in and see everything in detail. And now you can, but something looks off. The painter quality has been sprayed over with something that looks so much more generic. Even worse is when the technical problems occur while looking around and the screen looks fuzzy and distorted, like putting a magnet near an old TV. And I just kept thinking, I wish this had been an isometric. I kept switching from first to third person for a minute. Third person felt better, made everything feel more Mass Effect, but the benefit didn't last long. After a minute, something still looked a bit off. There are some moments where the change in format does have some benefits. Climbing high and leaping into appropriately deep waters, they run clear and have whole ecosystems. It's these beautiful island waters. The heights of trees in the forests are unfathomably massive in a way that can only be felt when you're in control of the camera. Seeing some of the structures off in the distance does have that impact that is lacking in the small details. One of the final areas is especially awe-inspiring. It made me wonder if the problem is less the format and more how the overall graphics in the game look. Everything looks so plastic. It lacks the artistic quality of the main games. Another thing that looks plastic smooth is the characters. Everyone is so pretty, and I hate it.
Can you believe the cheek on that one?
And why is their hair blue? Why is it the same color as their skin? This is a nitpick and I'm going to pick at it like a scab. They look so stupid. At first I thought the problem was just this guy's dumb haircut, until I was skimming over footage and was like, wait a second. Why is their hair the same color as their skin? Amawa have always had black hair and sometimes reddish brown hair, but their hair has always looked distinct from their skin. It looks like the characters were auto-generated, and no one thought playing through it to fix this. And honestly, with how bored I often was playing through it, I can't really blame them all that much.
Normally I wouldn't mind passing time, trading nonsense, but I've things to do.
But it bothers me. Was their dad an Orlin? Oh, I guess not. At least his hair is dark blue. I guess I'm fine with this, because at least this looks like hair and not like a computer accidentally made it match the color of their skin. The appearance of the characters lacks so much, well, character. Even the bandits are drop-dead gorgeous. It's exhausting and generic. I adore and miss the painted faces of the main games. To be a touch off topic for a moment, this is why I love the look of remastered Skyrim so much. It has so much grit and character in its appearance. It breaks my heart knowing that Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna look a lot more like this and less like a work of art. I feel we collectively do not appreciate the arts as much as we should. It has turned us into unskilled, uncultured, boring, generic, inhuman husks. But Pillars values the arts so much. Even Avowed kind of does. In parts of the environment, the architecture, glowing lights, stained glass, and there are these beautiful digital paintings in the ending slides and the loading screens. Art inspires emotions and is meant to make you feel things. It creates a feeling, a vibe. Drawing out those emotions is a vital part of art. We connect to it for teasing out our feelings. Avowed does clearly understand this, and that's why it's especially disappointing that the overall visual appearance of the game lacks this special quality.
Tainted? Why would they do that?
It lacks this quality even when it's trying its best to convey it. There are many gorgeous standout visual moments and many awe-inspiring landmarks, especially in the final area that were very interesting to me. In games, I often find areas similar to the final one rather boring and empty. And it might be because by this point I stopped exploring. I quickly found the exploration predictable, boring, and repetitive in a way I had no connection with and quickly lost interest. Another large aspect of the game I found predictable, boring, and repetitive was the combat. Although it is technically improved compared to many similar games, it was horribly uninteresting. Yes, dodging and swinging weapons feels more responsive and connects with more weight. I was just pressing the same buttons in a way I was painfully aware of. It was also flat. I mean that both in terms of metaphorical intrigue and literally flat. This is another translation that is one-to-one with Pillars. Combat happens in flat circle-like arenas, and sure, Skyrim's combat is less responsive or whatever, but using the environment in clever ways makes it enjoyable to me, so enjoyable. Avowed is just flat, pressing buttons, and pressing the buttons has no unique rhythm or exciting patterns to overcome. It feels just as shallow as Skyrim's combat, but even more flat, and it's as one-dimensional, more one-dimensional, I would say. I began my adventure on hard, and then normal, and then easy, and then eventually I did what I did in Pillars of Eternity 1 and turned it all the way down to Dad mode, otherwise known as story time. In Pillars 1, I did this because I found the combat too confusing and said, I'm sure this is great, but it's not for me. After playing Pillars of Eternity 2, I realized I actually like this combat a lot. My issue in the first game was a lack of understanding and a horrible UI, made even worse because I played it on this thing. I had a revelation that this real-time with pause combat is for me. I enjoy it a lot, even if I'm still really bad at it. I don't think I will ever have such a revelation with Avowed's combat, because I do understand it, it is responsive, the UI is fine, it's just too boring and uninteresting to waste more time on it than I already had. Uninterested and bored was how I felt every time I opened Avowed to play it. I would just stare at the icon like a pile of dishes I kept telling myself I would get to. If I feel this way, then why keep playing? Right? Why not just turn it off if I don't enjoy it so much? Shouldn't I save my time? Well, like I said, I'm a fan of this world. I want to know more about it. And Pillars of Eternity 1 starts out... I personally don't want to say its pacing is bad. It's just something better on a reread. You lack a lot of understanding and so much is thrown at you. You're dropped into this complex world, throw you to the wolves mentality. Once you do understand it a bit more, the start is enjoyable. And it gets really interesting around the midpoint, mellows out a bit before concluding with Aora shattering fascination. Maybe Avowed will be similar. Even if clearly and obviously a few steps down in quality, it does get a little better. Even if just a little. Pillars never reaches Avowed's lows, and Avowed never comes close to Pillar's highs, but it does get a little better. And this is where my feelings of Avowed get a lot more complicated and interesting. I hope. The quality in writing is a massive step down. Much like the visuals, it's more generic and lifeless. The whole tone and style of the writing is so marvelly. I really wish I had a better way to describe it, but the thing is I hate this modern style of writing so much that I usually just avoid it.
You must be fun at parties.
Despite that, there are small and big things that are very clever and Avowed. I'll get to the big ideas later during spoilers, but one small example is when meeting Yatsley. If you're a nerd, you probably had the same reaction I had. Why are you pink? I'm not even necessarily complaining. I'm just curious. Is hair dye a thing now? Are pink Orlands a thing now? Are you blessed by WoW? Did some spell fray your hair pink? I'm not saying I hate it, I just want to know why. The voice in your head speaks.
The dust of the Akita in her hair.
There's the answer I wanted. She has lineage in this now extinct group of people. That's cool. It doesn't dwell on this small thing and over-explain it, but it does give a quick, satisfying reason to all the nerds like me. So cool, thank you for that. Because of these moments, it didn't feel like talentless hack writers. It felt like clever writers whose talents were being wasted. It feels like they were forced or pressured to write something more generic with a broader appeal. This really came through in the companions. I didn't like any of them. They felt like bland 6 out of 10, generically plastic, and the humor.
I feel pretty certain that those people aren't supposed to be plants. We can leave now, right? I think those were Giada's parents, or whatever's left of them.
Ah, well, I don't suppose they were using that either. I'm trained to survive.
What just happened? I heard something about a squirrel. Yeah, I'll be honest. He lost me when he started talking about souls. What did I miss?
I've got the biggest head in town. Everybody tells me so.
When my parents died.
There's something poetic about the idea of plants eating souls to survive. Creepy, but poetic. Oh, and what do you use for fertilizer? Other corpses?
A wet, ropey, warm chicken.
And I'll have to find somewhere to sleep.
I'm sure everything's fine. It's just a spooky death basement.
I hate this style of character. I especially hate when all the characters in something are like this. Avowed is often underwritten and overwritten, and this won't be the first contradiction I make with the writing, but both somehow are true at the same time. Beginning with the overwriting, the quests are exhaustingly worded. I thought I was bad at condensing information. I don't dislike fetch quests in games. I don't. I view it as a neutral quest format where its quality is determined by how enjoyable the fetching is. Many of the side quests in Avowed are fetch quests, and the characters will have so much to say, and it's all just uninteresting filler. They will talk for ages, and all you have to do is go kill some Zarobs. In fetch quests, I don't want to discuss my adventure. I want to go on my adventure. The underwriting is... Oh, Andra, where to begin? There's a quest early on with a godlike of ASS. He is rebuilding a new titan for his god. It doesn't look like it's going all that well. This is an interesting idea and an interesting character, and just nothing of note really came of it. Nothing happens. I think part of that is the point, kind of, but I'm not such if... Sure, idiot. You gotta write your own goddamn script.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
I'm not sure if that's just how the quest went for me. It does seem like it can branch in a few different ways. I can barely remember any of the details of the quest because I was not interested at all. It was so boring.
If it is a watcher you seek, then a watcher you have found.
Later, you visit a watcher. Watchers in Pillars of Eternity are quite rare. They can see into your soul and your past lives. The overstimulation of the collective pasts can be overwhelming for them, and often drive them mad. I'm not saying Avowed needs to do the exact same thing as Pillars of Eternity, but it should do something. And what it does is the Watcher here is just generic hippie lady. She's not interesting or mystical at all. Her presence feels included only because, well, Watchers are kind of a big deal in the other games, and maybe we should establish the importance of reincarnation and souls in this world, and that some people can look into your soul and they are called Watchers. That's fine as a rough outline, but you're meant to extrapolate on it and make it an interesting experience. You know, do something with it. And speaking of cool ideas involving Watchers that are utterly wasted by doing absolutely nothing with, there is a fraudulent Watcher in town. I heard that and my ears perked with excitement. That sounds amazing. I need to go meet this. The problem is she's not written like a genuine fraud. She's written how you would explain a genuine hack fraud to a friend. She's not authentic. She's your interpretation of her, but coming from her own mouth. Paired with the look of the characters, listening to her was so uncanny and strange.
Your soul, envoy. Your very soul is in danger. The Watcher can see it. The Watcher knows.
The role-playing is also very limited compared to Pillars. This I expected going in. I'm fine with it. I often wonder if third first-person games even benefit from having too many dialogue options. The mix of talking and gameplay can harmonize, but it can often clash. Like, if you just want to play the gameplay game, you're more likely to zone out or even skip the talking parts, even if they're interesting, which Avowed is not. I'm not reading that. I want to fight some skeletons. So I think it's fine and probably beneficial to slim down and streamline the dialogue options, if these 5 options are not meaningful choices or valuable character building, why are they even here? Is it really such a crime to narrow it down to 2 or 3 options that are more meaningful choices or add flavor to the character? Especially when the streamlining can make the story tighter and the dialogue better paced. I think not all, but many who claim to like role-playing games don't really like role-playing games. They like first-person action-adventure role-playing games. They want Call of Duty with sections of dialogue smashed in between matches. And I'm so sorry to be the one to tell you this, but prove me wrong. Go play Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 if you love role-playing so much. Much like everything in Avowed, the problem isn't the idea, it's the execution. The limited role-playing should have narrowed things down to a quicker pace, better options, and a more fluently told story. Yet somehow it makes a bigger mess. The role-playing options left me feeling as confused about my character as I did when I realized, oh my god, oh no, I accidentally made her look like Hayden Christensen. No. Avowed gives you too many options and not enough. And yeah, I get it, that shouldn't make sense, but somehow it does. But to explain that, well, I have to get into spoilers.
Just try not to think too much of your place in the world.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my character for a while. I knew I wanted to be a wizard, and the court augur options are over-the-top, mysterious, poetic riddle speak that I love. And it ties in really nice with a wizard character. So I paired those together, but beyond that, I was lost. To find some order and structure, I began to take my role as the envoy, a loyal servant to the Empire, very serious. But after arriving to the second area of Fior Messavino, I was met with my first difficult choice. The gardens here are tended to by the undead, and I thought, do I continue my efforts as a loyal subject to the Empire and put a stop to this madness? Or do I side with the animancers keeping zombie slaves because it's funny? Before you can make this decision, Ludwin decides for you. Ludwin, by the way, is, I guess you could say, your rival protagonist, as you both technically share the same goal to stop the plague known as the Dream Scourge. And the first time your paths cross, you get to finally meet this character you've been hearing so much about. And oh my god, I hate how she looks. She looks like a generic video game boss fight. The big flaming sword on her back doesn't help the matter at all. Again, this is another thing that is translated from Pillars exactly how it is in that game, but the always on fire sword isn't as egregiously goofy looking when it's your teeny little chess pieces wielding it. You need these inflated eye-catching details to make something so small stand out, but blown up to first-person proportions, it looks so lame. I'm not even opposed to a fire sword. A sword on fire is undeniably cool. Like, I'm not a prude. I'm not gonna pretend a fire sword is lame. It's just, on her back, always on fire, especially paired with the rest of her design, it looks so dumb. Like, this thing should at least have a scabbard to quell the annoyingly loud flames while it's sheathed. To rub salt into the wound, after meeting her, you turn around and see this painting. Why does she not look like this? Is this more obviously evil and villainous? Is this maybe less creative? Sure, and yeah. You've seen this kind of design for this kind of character before. This design would have been more conventional for this kind of character, but conventions can be reliably effective. Being too creative and too zany can easily diminish the intent of how to feel about a character. Ludwin looks like someone, you know when someone wears some primary color sweater like this, and then maybe some red shoes and some space print leggings topped with a green tie-dye hoodie, and it's just too much and it looks ridiculous? That's Ludwin. Her design is the visual interpretation of someone who wears way too much cologne. Another thing about her design is her neck is thin, like really thin. This is because when she loses her mask, it's revealed that, oh my god, wow, shocker, she has a thin neck because she's a skeleton. Maybe this reveal is more effective for newcomers, but treating obvious things as big revelations is a common hiccup in the storytelling. Not just things you can put together with small clues, but there are things blatantly spelled out, and the characters act like this is the first time they ever considered this possibility.
The evidence is right in front.
Later on in the dwarf area, Kodsiek, or whatever the fuck his name is, breaks tradition and wants to side with the Empire and set his people on a better, more freeing life. He explains this and even asks for your help in the matter. Later, when the betrayal happens, it's treated like, oh my god, who would do such a thing? Marius is even like, who could have possibly done this? And is stunned when learning that the traitor is Kodsiek. Like, dude, are you literally stupid? You were literally there when we discussed this with Kodsiek. Do you literally need this spelled out word for word? Apparently you do. Did we not have a whole quest together where you established your whole thing is putting clues together? Are you seriously this dumb? Unbelievable. However, one thing that was a shocking surprise is the choice Ludwin made for you. She burns the entire town of Fjord to the ground. It's very effective and shocking moment in the story. Despite thinking it's definitely an extreme solution, it's the most simple solution. This moment made me kind of want to side with Ludwin. Why would anyone ever want to side with the evil, tyrannical bad guy of the story? Well, 2 reasons. Being evil is fun. I love playing evil characters. I find the conflicts way more interesting. I become overjoyed when my companions start arguing and crying about the bad thing I just did. The story can twist and turn in fascinating ways. It can be pure fun, but it can also bring up compelling moral and philosophical questions. You can see a side of the game and the characters you'd otherwise miss. You can really find out just who everyone really is by being a bit evil. The funny thing about Ludwin is I've essentially played as a cooler version of her in the other games. One of my favorite characters I've ever made in Pillars of Eternity was a strict, tyrannical death machine. She was a fire godlike who grew up a slave in Old Valia, which is kind of the precursor to the Valian Republics, which is these guys. During that time, she worked with animals often. Being a fire godlike, she was revered amongst the other slaves. So animals were the only thing she could connect with and trust. She would always be benevolent and kind to them, even after becoming a Bleakwalker. She joined the Bleakwalkers after they came in and slaughtered all of her slavers. Bleakwalkers are a strict group of paladins that feel the ethics of war are a waste of time. They find solving problems with aggression and cruelty far more effective than diplomacy. And in her case, their methods were proven right. From that day forward, she was no longer a slave. She was a free woman thanks to the Bleakwalkers' aggressive solution. She took this lesson to heart. With her new life, she made someone of herself. She never let anyone talk down to her again. Because of her past, she was blunt, honest, very against slavery, very kind to animals, even though it weakened her as a paladin. I even subclassed her in the second game and gave her a pet lion. But she was also very cruel, extremely aggressive. She found simple, effective solutions to problems, disregarding any ethics or morals of her actions. She definitely committed some war crimes, maybe a little bit of genocide, twice, and a plethora of murders. She was vile. She makes Ludwin seem like an amateur. And because of her personal history with the Valians, she fucking despised animancy. Which leads me to my second reason why I wanted to side with Ludwin. I hate animancy. Not as a concept. I love this idea of this Bronze Age mad scientist messing with the natural order, prodding at the mysticism with a lack of regard for ethics. Even when they do discuss the ethical dilemmas of their studies, it feels like they're only pretending to care about it to get their opposition to shut up or at least soften their hatred for animancy. I mean, like, morally, I hate animancy. In a world where reincarnation and souls are a very real thing, I think it's sick and perverted to mess around with this kind of thing. Animancy seems less vile here than it does during some moments in the other games, but it's still sick. Like, it's not just that they're using zombie slaves, it's that I'm pretty sure the souls of these people are trapped in these rotting husks. Their souls are trapped in this rotting flesh prison, and they're kind of aware to a degree. They're not entirely mindless undead. They are prisoners in their own bodies, who are now being used as slaves until they rot to the point of becoming useless. Like, they're not just undead, they're practically in a coma. So, although Ludwin's decision is definitely extreme and cruel compared to a diplomatic solution, it is a solution. And I don't think animancers should be allowed to run around and do whatever they want. What's strange is you can softly sympathize with Ludwin's decision to her victims, but not to her second in command. Like, I can tell people who lost their homes that when you think about it, Ludwin has a point. But 5 minutes later, I can't tell her second in command that I see the rationale behind their actions. Do you see what I mean when I said Avowed has too many choices and not enough? It's frustrating because the lowered amount of role-playing options could have led to a really interesting, tighter story and an arc for the envoy, where you lose your purpose as the envoy and find a new meaning, or slowly begin to side with Ludwin, increasing the authority of your position as envoy, thinking the harsh diplomatic ways of the Empire may work out in Adir, but not in the harsh climate of the Living Lands. You were sent here to solve a problem, after all. Ludwin's methods are rational and effective, even if cruel. It would have been cool to write the options in a way that, as the game progresses, you could slowly agree with Ludwin more and more. This is where limiting the role-playing options can lead to more interesting character arcs and a more tightly written story. But in Avowed, it just leads to an inconsistent character. One moment you can say something, and then in the next, you just can't. That's, not good in a game you're supposed to take fairly seriously. What makes this inconsistency even more bizarre is you can side with Ludwin at the end of the game. If the option is there, why are you only sometimes taking it away? It doesn't make sense to me. Did I miss something? If you find Ludwin disagreeable, then you can give in to the voice in your head and side with your god. This is some of the best parts in Avowed. Sopidal is the new god introduced into the Pantheon. And well, they're not a new god, but they have been imprisoned for ages. All history of them has faded into ancient ruins. The gods and pillars of eternity are... They're meant to symbolize some human truth, the need to hunt, the satisfaction and glory from pragmatic skill, the value of discipline and order, how we are not defined of our mistakes and through great achievements we can be redeemed. The natural allure to water keeps us restless until we reach the tides and rinse away our sorrows. Sopidal adds chaos. If you're a nerdy fangirl for pillars like me, then you're probably wondering how I could make this claim that Sopidal is chaos. Isn't the chaos and spreading of disease kind of like Rimagron's whole thing? Sort of. And this is what I love about Pillars of Eternity. Two gods sounding vaguely like the same thing on paper is pretty in line with Pillars of Eternity's gods. Wodoka and Margren have some parallels, or Skain and WoW. Skain and WoW? Whatever the fucking rapper's going anyway. I love my roommate, I'm just joking. Or Skain and WoWs can sound really similar on the surface too. One might think, like, do these really need to be different deities? Yes. Skain is the god of deceit, the slow burn of manipulation to get our way. WoW is the adoration for mystery, the idea our curiosity drives us. Even though both are frequently dishonest and shrouded in mystery and deceit, without a broader explanation, they can seem very similar but are different. One is more about lies, and the other is more about the unknown. All the gods are meant to speak some truth of our humanity and emotions. So there's bound to be some messy nuance that only makes sense when expounded on. It's complicated. Rimagron and Sopidal are much like this. Rimagron is more about the inevitable end of things. Nothing lasts forever. The decay will not only rot our bodies, but even stone structures cannot hold forever. Nothing is permanent. Disease will come, and there will be an end. Sopidal is chaos, but in very Pillars of Eternity fashion, they are not just chaotically destructive, bleh, anarchy. Their chaos is neutral. Disease spreads in chaotic, unpredictable ways, as do the vines and roots of plants. Chaos scatters seeds and fungi across the land. The difference between entropy and chaos. This is the kind of stuff I come to Pillars of Eternity for, these nuanced perspectives on a single topic. This is what I love about these games, and their interactive nature only benefits to these stories and their philosophical ideas that would otherwise be lost if they were just novels or a TV show. Sopidal being the antithesis of Wodoka fits perfectly. We cannot control everything. My favorite part is none of this is explicitly spelled out. It never beats you over the head with it. It just presents the situation and shows you what kind of god Sopidal is through their actions, behavior, and even through the environment that they influence. It shows you this and then expects you to infer the information and think of the meaning of it all. Despite loving this all as an idea, as philosophy, I did not side with Sopidal. I found them untrustworthy. Their emotions are unpredictable, chaotically irrational. The truth of humanity that we will not always have control can also apply to our emotions. And when Sopidal lashes out, they do so in a haphazardly spreading sickly disease nature at random. When a wrong is done to us, it can be easy to delude ourselves into thinking revenge is the only way to achieve fair justice. But revenge is not fair justice. I've had some bad life experiences, and revenge does not lead to fulfillment or happiness, and often can impact those who didn't deserve the revenge in the first place. Getting fair justice and then moving on and relearning what joy feels like leads to happiness. So I picked order over chaos. I accepted my loyalty to the Empire and our queen who was, and sided with Ludwin. I sided with her to a fault and did the thing you should never do in a role-playing game. I overthought my choice and picked the option more concerned with the ending instead of how I felt. You eventually need to decide to support Ludwin or Ringrim's method of a situation. Although I found Ringrim's tale rather convincing, I sided with Ludwin. I wasn't sure if you even would be able to side with her in the end, but I wanted to try. Knowing I never wanted to replay Avowed ever, I got worried if I opposed her, she would turn hostile and ruin the potential ending. Thinking that was my fault. They both seemed fairly content about the matter one way or the other. After finishing the game and reading the other endings, I really wish I had followed my heart and sided with Ringrim. I found the idea of trying to side with the tyrannical faction and then get executed for not being perfect enough far more interesting way to end things. And well, that's what I thought when I read about the ending. When I actually saw it and how the execution was executed, I felt the same feeling I felt with a lot of Avowed. The idea was more interesting than the experience. But at least it made me feel better about the ending I did get. Ludwin and I, her new second in command, bringing order to this wretched land by inflicting tyranny upon it. It doesn't matter, for these digital people have no feelings, and even if they did, I wouldn't care, because the empathetic part of my brain just doesn't work. Another nitpick I have about the game that I forgot to squeeze in somewhere is when you press X to eat things, it takes so long to eat them that it's quicker to just go into your inventory and like manually eat it than it is to hold X and like eat it fresh off the tree. It's bizarre. I hate that this microphone has to be in the shot now. Look how cute. You do it live and you go, go, go. And if it sucks, then I fucking deal with it. I don't do fucking takes. It's fuck you. I'm so angry all the